want to see conclusion to Tumaini initiative, a peaceful one and a conclusive one. But you are all aware that the government has made a position in Juba, a position in which we were sent to come and present to our colleagues, our brothers and sisters from the all-out group. In that position, the RT GONU made it very clear that RRCS is the foundation of RT GONU. The RT GONU government is a result of having an agreement in South Sudan called RRCS, and we formed the government on that basis, and that any agreement with anybody, be it in the Tumaini here or with any other all-out group, shall be entered into in that basis, that the RRCS is the main agreement. 2, on that basis, the RT GONU subjected the draft protocols which were taken to Juba by our team. We subjected them to a process of scrutiny to ensure that it is in compliance with RRCS. The basic reason is that the two documents must align so that we don't have two agreements in the country. Third, the RT GONU made observations on those protocols develop positions to guide the discussion with the delegation of the whole groups. This is basically to say we came with observations from the protocols which were taken to Juba, and that we were going to present these observations to our brothers and sisters from the all-out groups to also have their say where they feel they need to say something. The fourth one is that the government delegation was ready to serve the mediation with a copy of the position paper it brought to Nairobi, and we were also ready to serve the whole art group with the same position. The mediation advised against serving the document to the whole art group, saying that they would want everything to be done indoors, not through papers corresponding. You send here this one, send it back to you. We say okay, we listen to them, and we have been trying to send across our observation, which was not possible. Fourth, the oppositions, they are also adamant that the draft protocols agree with the government delegation in August were final and should be signed as is, and that the only outstanding issue is responsibility sharing. This is basically to say our brothers and sisters from the all-out group were saying they can only discuss responsibility sharing, but our position as you need to agree on the structure, be it the structure of the government or the mechanisms that are going to implement the agreement before you apply responsibility sharing on them. Because what are you going to apply the responsibility sharing on? You must agree on a certain structure. Then you ask yourself, how do I implement this structure? As a result, you will now agree on the responsibility sharing so that you are able to implement whatever you have agreed upon. The mediation, as a result, the mediation saw that it was necessary for them to come up with a middle ground, and the middle ground was that they came up with a draft agenda with the following item. Number one, they wanted to define clearly the relationship between RRCS and the Tumaini. What is RRCS? What is Tumaini? How do they relate to one another? As I said before, our position is that they must align, and therefore the Tumaini should be there to complement RRCS. Two, we made observations. We say there are repetitions, there are mechanisms or structures that are parallel to those of RRCS and contradictions to RRCS. They pulled that out and put it as an agenda on its own. Number three was responsibility sharing. And four was time frame for conclusions of the talk. As a government delegation, we accepted this agenda from the mediation, though our previous position was that we should first make presentation of the observation we made out of the previous protocols. But when mediation came up with this, we decided to say, well, for the talks to move forward, let's accept the agenda that came from the mediation. However, our colleagues insisted that only responsibility sharing and conclusion of the talks should be discussed. The rest were agreed and that they were not ready to discuss them. The government delegation accepted the agenda in that order. The opposition delegation insisted that discussion should be on the responsibility sharing, followed by a time frame for concluding the talks. This was their position. As a result, we could not discuss any of the agenda. So the mediation again decided to say, look, we are going to come back to you with what we think should be the middle ground. They went back. This morning, we are served with a draft framework for Tumaini complement to RRCs. They serve us with this draft this morning, all of us, and as a government delegation, we say, well, we will take the draft back to the leadership that sent us. We will look at the draft and make our responses when we come back. We concluded with the mediation, make observations in the document, or propose any that they think is important to be considered by the mediation. I would like also to address few things. Number one is to make it very clear that the talks have not collapsed. We are only going for a break. We will come back to Nairobi and continue with the negotiation. That is number one. Number two, I would also land the one presiding over the article. We, the delegation, are sent by the president. So this notion that there are people who are anti-Tumaini is unfounded, is untrue, and it has no basis. What we are saying is only one thing, that the RRCs have resolved the conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. If it have resolved the conflict, a conflict that have killed hundreds of thousands, a conflict that have destroyed properties, a conflict that have broken social fabrics in the Republic of South Sudan, cannot be changed with Tumaini. Why? In the RRCs, you have over 45 political parties. Some of them, like for example, SOA, you have about 8 political parties there. You have OPP, there are about 14 political parties. You cannot change it because of the 4 parties that are on the top. But we all agree that for the sake of inclusivity, we need everybody on board. We need everybody to participate in the implementation of RRCs. Third, we also say if there is anything new that is not addressed by the RRCs, it will be important for any of us to bring it up so that we consider it as long as it has an impact in the Republic of South Sudan. We also want to make it categorically clear that we, the team that are here, we are from all the parties to RRCs. And the document that we came with is a document that is passed by the presidency in Juba. These are their observations. We brought them here on their behalf. But if there is anything that we found on the table, we are also under duty to take it back to the people who sent us, to say, this is what you sent us with, but this is what we found on the table. What are your advices? If they have any, we will bring those back. And if they tell us go back with the same document, we will come back with it. If they form a new position, we will also bring new position on the table. I would like to conclude by saying that we are grateful to the Kenyan government. We are grateful to the mediation. The hospitality accorded to us is unimaginable. And the way in which the mediation have been conducting the process, we are grateful to them. They really shown that they are good neighbors to us and that they would want us to bring the Tumaini initiative to its logical conclusion. We are committed to it as Artigonu government and as a delegation. We are committed to that process, and when the day is mentioned, we will come back to the table and continue discussing with our brothers and sisters in the Tumaini. May God bless you. Well, as to what is in the document, it's not my responsibility to announce it to you. It's the responsibility of the mediation. As to when we are going is subject to our itinerary, but we are given permission by the mediation to go back and consult with the leadership in June. They will communicate with the parties. The mediation themselves will tell us when do they expect us back. But like I said, we are committed as a government to come back to the table. Oh yes, yes, it is just a break and we'll come back when they call us back.
And the proposals or the observations that you're going for, the position that you used to write the same government, you don't trust them because to write trying to come out with new observations and
Well, first of all, the colleagues who are here are our colleagues. At the individual's level, we trust them. But remember, any document, be it done by the previous team or us, is subject to scrutiny by the article. Meaning, whatever is done, you take it back. Remember, article is a government of political parties. It's not a government of one party. It's a coalition government. In a coalition government, you look at the document, agree collectively as one group, and say this is what we think is the right thing. So the question arises from the basis that if RRCS is the main agreement and Tumaini is a complementary document to RRCS, do we need to repeat the same provisions that exist in RRCS? One. Do we need to create parallel mechanisms when those mechanisms exist? And how are you going to implement parallel mechanisms? That is number two. Number three, if Tumaini is complementary, do you remove mechanisms that are in the main agreement, or do you complement those mechanisms and make them stronger? Four is basically to say, we have this observation, we present them to you, they are not orders. They are subject to discussions with our brothers and sisters from the whole out groups. They have the right to say, well, we think this one is not right, we think this one is right, and find ways of us to agree. But that opportunity was not given.
Why is it?
We don't know. It's the mediation in their wisdom that decided to say, well, we will not allow it now, and we respected them. They are the mediation. Thank you very much. May God bless you. See you next time.